Hello everyone, nubkeks here and welcome back to Nub Raids, where today we finally have the info on what is coming in the Summon Rush, which is kicking off tomorrow, the Oella Summon Rush. Who are the champions boosted in this 10x? Well, there's actually several. It's quite a complicated event. We're going to break that down in today's video. And I also want to talk about 10x events in general and give you an updated breakdown of what your actual chances are to pull champions during 10x events. This is something I haven't done a video on in a while. I was kind of rusty. I've mentioned it in a few videos recently. I was like, I need to really brush up on my 10x chance list, seeing as there's so many new champions in the game now. And that's what we're going to do today. So let's dive in. Here we go. This is from Plarium directly as part of the CC program. Obviously, I get this information. Thank you to them as always. Something special for this Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is going to be going all the way to Sunday, actually, all the way through Sunday the 19th. It's now almost a full week event, apparently. But Valentine's week. A streak of 10x events to summon paired champions from Ancient, Sacred, and Void shards. So first of all, on Friday through half of Saturday, right, it will be up for 36 hours, so a day and a half. There's going to be a bunch of 10x events on. So from Ancient and Sacred shards, Xavia and Rotos. And then from Void shards, Bellinor and Siphi. Then on Saturday, from Ancient and Sacreds, Sissia and Karato. And from Voids will be Cardial and Yumiko. Interesting as well, this is why you've got to break down the chances too. There's something special waiting for those who will manage to pull both champs from one of the couples. Interesting if the impossible happens. But let's see. Let's talk about these champs first. So Xavia and Bellinor, Rotos and Siphi. These are the set that will be up for Friday and half of Saturday. Let's take a look at them. Let's talk about them. So first of all, Xavia. I do not have Xavia. I think she's a pretty cool champion though. She's a poison exploder, right? AoE attack. Deals damage from all poisons instantly. It says it does half the standard damage when it hits bosses. I don't believe that's actually true, though. And yeah, it also blocks Revive, which is pretty cool for Ice Golem. So she's quite useful. She isn't quite as good as Elenarl overall at the moment. That's purely because of affinity of the dungeons. Now, we know from data mining that there's potentially hard modes of the dungeons coming. And perhaps this for Ice Golem in particular could be extremely good there. But she's a good champ. She also has AoE that applies poison. Her A1 applies poison. She's got a combo with Bellinor. She's extremely, very, very low defense, but she hits hard. She's a good champion. She is a good champion. Her partner is, of course, Bellinor. Derp, derp. I don't know why I needed to check, but I did. Bellinor from the Voids. He got buffed recently. He did. So he actually comes in and he now has an AoE decreased defense weaken. And the really nice thing about this is it is a 100% decreased defense and weaken AoE on a 3-turn cooldown with no books required. So if you pull this guy with 0 bucks invested, you have a 3-turn cooldown AoE decreased defense weaken, which is extremely good. It also gives him perfect veil. He puts a crit rate on allies if he crits, which is actually really nice for clan boss. So yeah, it activates his overkill. Yeah, does that. Like, they've got a cool combo together. I think Bellinor is more of a progression champion, you know. You only need so many decreased defense weakened champs, but he is very good now, much better than he used to be. I think he does slightly less damage against clan boss because it doesn't hit as hard now. It's not a single target, but still a great champ for progression. I'll be honest though, Xavia, Bellinor, these are not really champions I'd be chasing too much in a 10x event. Xavia more so than Bellinor, I think, because the poison explosion, but neither one is blowing me away. I think they're one of the weaker set. Then we've got Rotos the Lost Groom and Siphi the Lost Bride. Now, these are two very strong champions. So, Rotos the Lost Groom, amazing single target damage dealer. He ignores 60% of the target's defense. This move hits like a truck. It gives an extra turn if he kills an enemy. His A1 can put decreased defense, but also has a chance of an extra turn. And it's really this extra turn stuff that can let him go out of control in arena and be such a pain. And that he can also destroy max HP and steal it for himself. That makes him tankier. And of course, because his damage scales on his own HP on every move, the more HP he steals, the harder he is to kill and the harder that he hits as well. On top of that, a single hit cannot exceed 50% of his max HP, and it gives him an extra turn if he blocks this. So again, he can cut in, makes him a pain to deal with, basically. Very strong arena champion, very, very strong. And he's also quite good against some of the Doom Tower bosses as well. So I'd say somewhat niche. He's mostly arena, but he does have some use against some other bosses. Very strong single target damage dealer. Now, Siphi is, I think, on another level to all the champs we talked about so far. I'd say she's like an S tier, kind of across the board champion. Block debuffs, increased defense, increased speed, and a little bit of turn meter on everybody. Single target revive, A1 with an irresistible sleep, or a bit of a heal, and then a passive that's healing. Good chance to remove freezes or fears. Amazing resistance aura. Insane base stats as well. 114 base speed. Siphi is amazing in arena, amazing against Doom Tower bosses, amazing for Hydra. Basically, any part of the game that's difficult, Siphi is insanely good for it. Sand Devil as well, of course. So, yeah, Siphi is incredible. On the whole, then, Friday, I think looks relatively decent. I'll say that Xavier and Bellinor are a bit weaker, but Siphi and Rotos are both very good. Let's see how it compares to Saturday then. Saturday, we've got Sissia, Cardial, and Karato and Yumiko. So, Sissia, for me, stands out as definitely a big winner from the non-void pile. She's extremely good. She's AoE HP burn. That can give her an extra turn if she places it on all enemies. Then an A2 weaken. That will do decreased defense, AoE as well, if there's at least 2 enemies burned. And instantly activates HP burns, and which decreases their duration. So she just instantly explodes the HP burns. I think the reason Sissia for me is so good, she makes speed farming Spider extremely potent. Like, let me show you. I think she's amazing. Something that continues to amaze me and makes me realize, it's one of the things that makes me realize that people aren't the smartest when they're talking about shard events. Logical analysis is something that people typically fail on. There was a guaranteed event for Sissia for, I believe it was 12 Sacreds, and people were really not sure if that was worth it. It was one of the best deals ever in terms of the return you could get on your shards. But in terms of coming in and speed farming Spider, it's not worked out quite well. She hits a little bit too hard on my team. Because I've got her built up for Hydra as well. So we're kind of slow. This can be like 20 seconds. We got slowed down by actually killing the spiderlings and triggering extra animations. But she opens up speed farming Spider, which is huge. It's such a big deal. And she's fantastic for Hydra as well. AoE burn, AoE decreased defense weaken, exploding burns. Of course, in Hydra, affinity can be an issue, so she can weak hit and miss her extra turn at A3. But nonetheless, I think she's an incredible champion. Her companion is likewise an extremely good champion, Cardial. Full team cleanse with revive on death and block debuffs. Ally attack with increased crit rate and crit damage. And then an A1 that actually does lots of healing. And a passive that lets him join in on attacks and do healing with the speed aura as well. Great base stats. Cardial is a great arena champion and he's exceptionally good for Hydra as well. Really strong Hydra champ. He'll basically make it so your team won't die, keep cleansing them as well, and bringing lots of extra damage to ally attack and a speed aura. He's extremely, extremely good. You don't need a reviver. Cardial basically fills the role of a reviver, but with more damage, which is really strong for something like Hydra. So very strong. Then Karato Yumiko. Karato, I think, is the weakest of this bunch for sure. Karato, he's an AoE damage dealer. One nice thing, he can do block active skills that cannot be resisted if Yumiko is there, so that is quite decent with the pair together. Without the pair, not so good. His A2 gets way better if Yumiko is there as well. Without Yumiko, he's a decent damage dealer. He's got a cool passive that enables him to hit hard. He does hit hard. He is Spirit Affinity, which is useful, but he's not a must-build champion. Yumiko, on the other hand, is S tier across the board. No surprise. Decrease ally skills, increase enemy skills, both by 3 turns. Insanely strong. She's got a bunch of other stuff, like this A2 is a wall of text. It doesn't even all quite fit on the screen, which is amazing. Incredible champion for arena, even for speed farming dungeons and Doom Tower and stuff like that. So she's an insanely good champion. Insanely good. So on the whole, I would actually say that the Saturday Sunday stuff is better overall. I think the Void champs on Saturday Sunday, I think Cardial Yumiko is a much better option than Bellinor Siphi. I think both of these are incredibly good, whereas I think Siphi's incredibly good, Bellinor's a bit weaker. In terms of the Ancient Sacreds, Xavier Rotos versus Sissia and Karato, Again, that's kind of a tough one. I think this one's closer. Like Karato is definitely not that useful unless you've got Yumiko. Sissia is insane, but then I think both Xavia and Rotos are both very good, even without their partners. I think Rotos is much better with Siphi, and Karato is a million times better with Yumiko. But apart from that, the partnerships aren't essential. So there you go. There's sort of my thoughts on it. Where would I pull if I didn't have any of these champions? I'd be pulling if I was going to pull voids. I'd be pulling them here. Though you may not have any voids. It was just 2x voids last weekend, right? And if I was going to be pulling sacreds or ancients, um, for me personally, I'd be pulling here on Friday, especially because I've got Sissia already. I've got Karato already. I don't have these ones. I will say, of course, bearing in mind, and I'll break down the Summon Rush chances in a second, bearing in mind, with Summon Rush, Ancient Shards are pretty bad. Void Shards and Sacred Shards are pretty good for Summon Rush. So you can work it out if you're going for the fragments for this. Now, if you are not really just caring about it just for the fragments and hoping you might get lucky in what champs are coming up, here we go. I've broken down your chances. So these are the chances for your 10x. I'm very curious. Special something waiting for those who manage to pull both champs from one of the couples. So you got to get one of each. You've got to get like Xavia and Bellinor within that 36-hour window, and you get something special. Number one, I'm not sure how they're going to give you something special from that. I'm curious how they've actually programmed that in. But yeah, what are your chances? So here we go. First of all, I went in. These are each of the factions in order. I added up how many legendaries there were. Interestingly enough, obviously there's only 5 in Sylvan Watchers. They're the newest. Ogren is the lowest then, apart from that at 8. But I'd say it's pretty reasonably balanced across the board. It's not too bad. I think 14 the most is Dark Elves. There's 159 regular legendaries in the game as of time recording. For voids, there are 49 void legendaries at time of recording. Again, you can see it's a reasonably even spread. We've only got one Sylvan Watcher. Now, Ogren is really suffering. Ogren just has very few legendaries, unfortunately. They've got one void, which is pretty miserable, right? One void, it's the same as the newest faction added to the game. It's been in the game only a few months. Ogren is sat at the same number as them. In fact, they're even almost catching up on regular legendaries as well. I mean, we've got 4 void legendaries in the Shadowkin, whereas there's still only 1 in Ogren's. Pretty grim, and we've got 5 in Undead, 5 in Knights Revenant, and 5 in Dark Elves. I can't remember what the order is. I think this one's Night Revs, that one Dark Elves. But anyway, so yeah, that was a little bit more imbalance there, but that is what it is. Of those, of course, when you come to the summoning portal, you cannot summon all champions from shards. Now, yeah, basically all of these. So you can summon some of these from... There are some champions you can summon from ancient shards, but not sacred shards. So for example, Syl of the Drakes. You can summon Syl of the Drakes from an ancient shard, but you cannot summon her from a sacred shard. So I've actually done... Oh, I actually did the... I forgot. I did this wrong. I did the chances for ancients. Let me actually update this. So let me update. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I've actually updated this. So here's how it breaks down. We still have, of course, 159 regular legendaries, 49 void legendaries. Now there's 12 legendaries of these that cannot be summoned from ancient shards. There's actually 16 that cannot be summoned from sacred shards, such as Syl of the Drakes, etc. And then there's 5 void legendaries that cannot be summoned from void shards. There's, of course, a bunch of epics that can't be summoned as well, but that's not going to affect our 10x legendary chances here. What this means is that there are, when you pull a legendary, so you come in, you click summon, and the screen goes gold. It's a legendary coming at you. How many options? How many potential chances are there? So in Ancients, there's 147 different champions it could be. In Sacreds, 143. In Voids, there are 44 different champions it could be. What happens in a 10x event? So what happens in a 10x event is they add... I'm pretty sure this is how it works. They add 9 extra copies of a champion in. So instead of... It's like a deck of cards, right? Instead of there being a deck of cards with 147 cards in it, and you got to pull the Rotos card. They're going to add 9 extra Rotos cards in. So there's going to be 10 Rotos cards in your deck now, and your deck is now going to be 156 cards. They're adding in 9 extra Rotos ones. That's why it's a 10x. There are 10 times as many Rotos cards in the deck as there were before. But your chance isn't quite 10 times as likely. That's not how it works. It's actually slightly worse than that. And in fact, in a 10x Ancient, right, there's going to be 156 different champions it could be, and 10 of those are going to be a given champion. Let's say it's a 10x, I don't know, 10x for Rotos and nobody else included. You'd have a 6.4% chance when, again, remember, this is not upping your chance to pull a legendary. You still have a 0.5% per shard. But you pull your ancient shard, the thing goes gold. Oh my god, it's a legendary coming out. In a 10x event with one champion in there, you'd have a 6.4% chance for it to be the 10x champion. That's your chance. In a sacred, it's slightly better, 6.6, because there's slightly fewer champs in there. And for 10x voids, it's a good bit better, actually, substantially better. 18.8. 18.8% chance to get the 10x void legendary. What about this event? Because this event is different. In this event, we're going to have 2 champions, boosted in Ancient and Sacreds, and 2 champions in the Voids. What are your chances here? Well, basically, in this event, from your Ancient Shards, if you want one specifically, so let's say you're going in and you go, I really want Rotos, but I don't want Xavia. What are your chances to get Rotos only? Well, your chance for Rotos is 6.1%. It's actually slightly worse than if it was just a Rotos event on its own, because there's extra Xavia cards in the deck as well, and you don't want to pull them. Now, if you're happy with either one of those, you'd actually have a 12.1% chance to get either one. So again, you pull a legendary from your Ancient or Sacred during this 10x event, let's say on the Friday. You're looking for Xavia or Rotos. It's a legendary. It's coming out. It's a legendary. What's it going to be? There's a 12.1% chance it could be either one. The reason why this number is slightly different is because this is actually like 6.05%. I'll put it in as 6.05. It just gets rounded up a bit weird. Because I was kind of keeping it to one decimal place, but gives you the rough gist. For Sacreds, similarly, 6.2% to get one of them specifically, so it is a bit worse, or then 12.4% chance to get either one. And then for Voids, you'd have a 16.1% chance to get one of them, or 32.3% chance for either one, which is pretty decent, I think. So if you come in, and we say for Saturday in particular, like if you're going to pull for Saturday, Sunday, you're going to pull your Voids, and you're happy with either Cardial or Yumiko, like if you're close to Mercy Timer, honestly, having a 32.3% chance to get either Yumiko or a Cardial, they're both extremely good. They're both super strong and super usable Void Legendaries. That's pretty great. Because, you know, at a normal time, you've got a bigger chance to pull other legendaries, but those include some dud voids, which are just not useful. Nowhere near as useful as these ones. So not bad, right? It's not bad when you've got multiple void 10x events on and you're happy with any of the results. So there you go. It gives you a bit of a breakdown. As you can see from the summary, your chance in 10x events is still really low, right? It is still really low. You are much more likely not to get the 10x champions when you pull a legendary than to get them, not to mention the fact that you have to get a legendary in the first place. Now, let's look at this. What about this? What about this special something waiting for those who manage to pull both champs from one of the couples? What are your chances for that? Well, let's say you've got 16 sacreds. 16.66666 repeating, of course, sacreds is the amount that you would typically pull during a 10x event to hit a legendary. That's the average number. And 200 voids is the average number as well. It's 1 every 200 void shards roughly. Maybe Mercy Timer makes it slightly better. But let's go with this, right? So 16 sacreds. I'm actually slightly in the way. 16 sacreds, 200 voids. What would your chances be? So basically, let's go with the sacreds first. So you got a 12.4% chance, right? 12.4% chance, so you can get either one. And then you'd have a 16.1% chance to get the one that matches. So let's say we go in, we go, which one are we going to get? Oh my god, we got Karato, and now I've specifically got to get Yumiko. Right? So you can pull either one. You could pull Sissia instead and you go, okay, Sissia, now I've got to get Cardial. So that slightly improves your chances here to a whopping, it's actually a 2%. You've got a 2% chance to get both of them. With 16 sacreds and 200 voids, you've got a 2% chance that you would get both of these, both of the required legendaries, that you would basically make the match and form a completed pair. I mean, I've got 21 sacred, so I've got that, but I only have 90 void shards. So, yeah, I think this is a pretty low chance. I mean, let me know if you've got 16 sacreds and 200 voids and you can attempt this. I'm curious. Of course, this is assuming you don't have any mercy timer built up. So if you did, you would have a better chance, sure. Um, yeah, it seems pretty low. I'm curious. What do we think would be a good reward? What special something for the ridiculous amount of shards you would have to pull for this? What special something would it be? Considering the amount of money you would need to pay to get a good chance of this from this, it should be like an all expenses paid, like, I don't know, weekend away to Paris for like you and your significant other or something, right? It should be a pretty big special something for the likelihood of that. But let me know what you think, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thumbs up if you did. I hope it was helpful breaking down not only the 10x event, but also going a bit in depth into the chances of you getting stuff. It's always good to really understand what those chances are so you can make proper informed decisions. Anyway, I'll see you all soon. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.